Hi, I'm Anthony Pedrazzo, and I will be going over my case study for the student that I shadowed by the name of Marcus. So we'll start by describing the school in which Marcus attends. This is the Hallway Child Study Center, but it goes by the barn, and it's here on LaSalle College's campus. In the school, there are a total of 5 classrooms, with the preschool room being the biggest one. It's the same room that Marcus is in. The school itself is predominantly Caucasian, with a few other ethnicities within the building, which are mostly Asian, Indian, and Greek. The school is in the suburban area of Auburndale and is licensed by the Massachusetts Department of Early Education and Care, or DEEC for short. The students typically spend most of the day together, but there are 3 of the students in the class with an IEP, and they will leave on occasion to go to an external program by the school for extra help or different supports. So, in Marcus's class, there are 4 girls and 9 guys, so the ratio is a little bit different, which gives Marcus's interactions with the other boys a little bit more of a physical edge. There are 3 teachers in the classroom. One that is considered the main or head teacher, and the other 2 teachers there pretty much work together to ensure everything in the room stays safe and runs smoothly, and everything goes according to their daily schedules. The actual classroom itself is one room, and in this room there are things like a writing center, a large wooden structure for climbing, 2 tables with a bunch of chairs set up near them in case there is art projects or stuff out, a reading corner with books that are always accessible to the children, a small sensory table with either sand or some kind of element of nature in it, and a couple other things. So like I said before, including Marcus, there are 3 other students in the class who are on IEPs, although the other 2 are unknown to me. So let's talk about Marcus for a sec. He is a great kid who thoroughly enjoys building and being somewhere where he can get out of energy. I gotta say, as an adult, I can't even fathom the buildings and the structures that Marcus can make. He has a serious knack for that. Unfortunately, Marcus has a lot of difficulty challenging his emotions correctly, and oftentimes when he gets upset or angry, he'll throw temper tantrums that range from a few seconds to a few minutes. He'll get physical with his classmates and sometimes resorts to violence and tries to solve the issues on his own. So if someone's in his space, he'll end up getting upset about it and take a couple swings at his classmates, which really doesn't end well for anybody. And during his instruction that involves literacy, like circle time or the time where they read to the teacher, to the time where the teachers read to the kids, or they'll sit there for what they call tape stories, where the story is read to them via a small cassette tape. It's really hard for him to sit still. He really doesn't pay attention well at all, or he's usually interrupting somebody when there's somebody else talking, and it'll pretty often disrupt the circle and stop what the teacher is saying, or they'll have to stop the cassette tape. When it comes to his instruction in art, he really doesn't have any interest. He shows little motivation, very low disinterest, and doesn't really care about what the actual project is, and honestly, I watched him walk away from the projects a few times, so his attention span's very short, and he often finds other things to do in the meantime. So, during my observations, there were 3 in particular instances that I reported that kind of stuck out to me, that kind of embodied these observations. It was the first one was on February 6th. It was early in the morning, and one of Mark's classmates had just knocked over something that he was building. Of course, Marcus was doing some verbal provoking a little bit before. So Marcus' reaction to this structure being knocked down was to start swinging his other friend and crying out in anger and disarray and pretty much throwing a temper tantrum while being on top of the other child. After the situation subsided, the teachers came down and they calmed the 2 students and separated them. Marcus kind of just left on his own to be by himself in the corner of the room. So the second observation was on February 7th, the next day, Marcus was sitting at the literary circle for the morning, and the teacher began reading a book, and Marcus's attention immediately became interested in something else on the other side of the room, and he began focusing on that rather than listening. He attempted to talk to his other classmates who were paying attention, and one actually even reminded him to listen to the story, and he became upset by this, and he faced away from the circle until the teacher prompted him to turn back around. He interrupted the teacher several times before being reminded by one of the assistant teachers that he had to wait until the end of the story to share what he needed to say. And it was apparent that he had a lot of difficulty paying attention to the story, and when he was upset, kind of craved the attention from his teachers and from his classmates until they called on him and gave him the attention that they wanted. So the third instance that I have was February 13th, also in the morning. Marcus was sitting down at one of the tables during their designated art time. The teacher had actually demonstrated what the project was that they were going to do, and what it was going to look like, and what resources that they needed to do to complete the project, like paintbrushes and the paint that they needed to use. Marcus was looking elsewhere, and when the two of the other students that he was with began to work on the project, he looked at the teacher and he said he doesn't know what he's doing, and after being told by the teacher that he should have been paying attention instead of looking somewhere else, Marcus didn't really say anything. He actually picked up a brush and put 2 swipes of paint on the paper and got up and left. And the teacher had told him to come back and finish the project, but at that point in time, Marcus was kind of by himself and doing something by himself and no one really else watching. So after observing Marcus and watching him for a few days in a row, I came up with a problem statement to help me get a better idea of what Marcus was pretty much as a whole. And I thought when Marcus is expressing his feelings, he often uses his hands or hurtful words to one or more of the other students. When he gets upset or when something doesn't go his way as planned, he shuts down. He can take this anger out in the wrong fashion. When asked by a teacher if he can handle this problem in a different fashion, he'll lash out verbally against them and ultimately bring himself to tears. He also has a lot of difficulty maintaining his seat and interrupting the teacher at times during the literacy circles and the art instruction, and cause distractions and complications in the class. So after this problem statement came my research question, which made me wonder how I was going to go about this intervention plan. So my research question is, what sort of modifications and principles of positive behavior intervention can be used and implemented to ensure that Marcus can find success emotionally while interacting with his peers and teachers? What supports and strategies can be provided that can help Marcus focus at literacy circles and art instruction so that he can maintain focus? So, from this research question, I formed a hypothesis statement. It's a little lengthy, so bear with me. So I hypothesized that through the use of positive behavior strategies, teachers can encourage Marcus to first use his words, one in which are kind, and you will begin to see a change in his coping mechanisms, while at the same time building up a better defense for unchecked emotions. Implementing a self-monitoring checklist for Marcus can allow him to see where he is emotionally for the next week, and give him the incentive to behave well so that he can check off his own boxes. Removing Marcus away from the situation for the good of other students and himself so that he, A, doesn't hurt the other students, or B, put himself in danger indirectly. For literacy circles and art instruction, I hypothesize if you keep Marcus on the more outskirts of the circle, not excluded from the circle, but far away enough so he doesn't become distracted from the other students, it would allow for him to focus a little bit better. Using specific instructions for art time would allow Marcus to know exactly what needs to be accomplished as well, and how he can go about doing such. So, for my intervention plan, incorporating school-wide positive behavior support around the classroom and around the building should show positive reinforcement in an attempt to improve moods and behaviors, while promoting a solid idea on what it's like to be kind to one another, while the teachers on the teacher's end, praising children where praise is due, and correcting them in a way that isn't negative or could be taken as a punishment. So during my observations, I noticed that Marcus is more prideful when he's commended on something, when he does right, more than something he does wrong and simply being told not to do it. While attempting to sort a problem out by himself, or using words of physicality, Marcus went to a teacher to help him and told that he had done a good job for using his words rather than his hands, and to which Marcus simply replied, "Thank you." So I noticed that this may have been a more beneficial reinforcement to him because he responded pretty well to it. So the next strategy would be implement a self-monitoring checklist that could be used with Marcus, allowing him to know exactly what behaviors he needs to work on, and making a list of behaviors that Marcus has displayed, going on and over it with him, and pretty much giving a full detail of what Marcus needs to work on. This will increase the productivity of Marcus actively seeking out behaving more positively, having the incentive to fill out the checkboxes by himself, signifying that he has done a good job. And this can be used in tandem with the school-wide positive behavior support, because once Marcus has fulfilled the checklist for that day, week, month, whatever it is, he can receive positive feedback and praise for his job that he's done. He's proven to be a pretty visual learner, using his senses to figure out tasks and such to his benefit, so I figure this would be beneficial to him because he can actually see visuals on the checklist and remind him even further of the behaviors that he's attempting to help himself with. This checklist has to be very, very crucial to Marcus's interventions, because if it works at school, it can work at home as well, and that way both his parents and his teachers are on the same page, and that can allow him to demonstrate the same behavior at home as he does at school. So a lot of the times, as I mentioned before, Marcus will be upset if someone takes something from him or he gets too close in their space. A strategy to this would be placing Marcus in an area that is kind of wide open, where he's plenty of space for him to choose a toy or a book or something that will allow him to calm him down and remove the threat of him being engaged in other students, either taking what he was using or being up in his space. It would be more beneficial for him to pick out the area himself, because in that way he can still be with the students, but be in an area that he feels safer almost, and allowing Marcus the choice of where he would like to go gives him particular freedoms that he can enjoy, but only to use this to a certain extent and not have it be overused. So you can mark this progress by so for the quiet space, using a week for specific monitoring, it can show how to see how the space is working. And after that, if it is working, it can begin being monitored on a month-to-month basis. If it's not working, then it can be monitored on a weekly basis, where changes can be made to adapt. For the checklist, it's important for Marcus to revisit these goals on a weekly basis, adding more if you need, or removing some of his behaviors in the area that has been improved on. And his attention span has improved on the areas such as literacy and art. So thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot. So